All right, and welcome to today's episode of Leadership Unfiltered. Our topic today is the advantages and disadvantages of using technology in leadership.
Yes.
Now, I should start by saying this is a topic that is near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yes.
As we are both technologists,
Yes.
We both have backgrounds and careers in technology.
Yes.
And so we thought, as we talk so often about technology solutions and the complexities and everything that is happening both around the world and in corporations, that this would be a good topic for us to dive into. So
yes,
the advantages and disadvantages, and there are many, but when it comes to leadership, the thought for me is there are things that you need to consider in your role as a leader when it comes to technology. And you need to think thoroughly through the advantages and disadvantages that will impact your leadership, the team that you are leading, the organization, your stakeholders and customers. That'll be an interesting topic for us to dive into. So I start with a question for you around just when you think about this topic and all your expertise, experience in the field, are there truly disadvantages to technology and things you need to consider?
I would say that there's been disadvantages for me.
Okay.
In terms of my leadership style. So prior to COVID, I would walk around. It was typically Thursday afternoon, because typically folks tried to take off on a Friday afternoon, which was fine. It's Friday. But Thursday afternoon, the team got used to me doing my walk-arounds and saying, hey, how you doing? Because I believe if you walk up to anyone in your organization and they tense up, that's a you problem.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, the big boss is here. It's like, that is a you problem. And so I made a point to Thursday afternoon, sometimes it was Tuesday, but typically on Thursday, to walk around and talk to every person that was around, right? Which didn't, maybe I would catch maybe a third of my organization, right? Which would be fine. But whenever I came around, it wasn't a big deal, right? And I would catch up with what they were doing. And this is in addition with one-on-ones with my direct reports. Like I would typically have weekly one-on-ones with my direct reports, but this is the broader organization. I would try to make my presence known. Now, that was easier for me to do because we were all, for the most part, physically located in the same space. COVID happened. Same set of people, but that walking around, you can't do.
Right.
I had to figure out how to do that. So how do I make sure that I'm staying connected? And it's not an all hands. I'm going to take a brief sidecar for a second.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, if you're a leader and you have an all hands, the purpose of the all hands is not to build connection with your team. The purpose of an all hands is to cascade information and create an engagement environment where people can ask the difficult questions in public. That is the purpose of an all hands. Okay, back to...
Thank you for that.
Back to trying to create those connections with people. I had to figure out a different way to do it. And we were using Teams at the time. I had to run a couple of experiments to figure out what would work and what wouldn't work. And so what I ended up doing was starting to hold office hours as one way to do it. That works for some people, doesn't work for other ways. Also started doing was spinning up working groups and having a way for me to participate in each of those working groups as a way to engage more intimately with people who don't report to me. Skip levels are great. Okay, another sidecar. Sorry, this may be a couple of sidecars. The purpose of skip levels.
Yes.
The purpose of the skip level is not to build connection with people who don't report to you. That has to have already happened in order for the skip level to be for the skip level to work. The purpose of the skip level, when you meet collectively with people who are one level removed from your supervision, is to allow them to ask you questions and to get your perspective in a more intimate setting that doesn't have their direct leader there. So that if there's something that they want to express to you about what's happening in their organization, good, bad, or indifferent, they have the mechanism to do that. But in order for that to work, you have to have already built the relationships with those people. Again, the purpose of a skip level is not to build connection. Going back to the conversation at hand, I think it's so important that you figure out what works for you. I had to experiment, and I don't think that I've nailed it yet, because my leadership was raised. I was raised as a leader where people were in physical proximity to each other. Now, I was never one of those leaders, which is if your butt's not in the seat, you're not being productive. As long as I'm getting the output, do you, right? Be where you need to be, do what you need to do. So I was never one of those leaders where, if I don't hear clickety click, then you're not being productive. That's not who I am. But there is a ton of value in terms of how I was raised as a leader and being in physical proximity. So technology has been a disadvantage to me in my leadership style because I wasn't raised to lead virtually. I've had to learn that skill post-COVID. And then also having more global teams. And so when, I got a global team and you have to deal with time zones in multiple states, then, the physical proximity, you don't have that. And so you really have to learn how to engage those skills. And some of it is using technology to get your butt there. So technology doesn't always mean virtual. Sometimes you need the technology called an airplane
Yes.
that has a ton of technology in it.
Yes.
To get you from where you are to where your team is. And so, but that too is a new skill, which is how do you make sure that you are leveraging your trips to do engagement as well as productivity. To say, because, while there were times when I would fly to the UK just for engagement purposes, just from a cost perspective, you want to maximize the value of their visit. And so if that means, hey, arriving a couple of days earlier or staying another day later to do that type of engagement so that you can have the meetings that you need to have, and from a productivity perspective, and also have the time to do the engagement and the connection. Because we are humans, and as much as the virtual world and having virtual meetings works from a productivity perspective, they will always be less effective than physical when it comes to connecting. Right. And that isn't my reality. That is truth. Yes. That is a shared truth for us as a species. And so I think it's important that we're having this conversation.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up airplanes as a technology, because I'm sure many of our listeners thought we were going to talk about AI. Which we will.
Yes.
We will absolutely talk about AI as the hot topic around technology. But when you think about technology, that term is so much broader than AI or, some of the more common things that we think of, Microsoft and, applications and that sort of thing. Cars are technology, airplanes are technology. Our phones are technology. So there's all types of technology. And so we should think broader about that, which really gets into this conversation around the advantages and disadvantages of it. We can talk a lot about the advantages of technology. It has afforded us the life that many of us live today. The technology continues to evolve, including AI, that is doing things not very long ago in our past we didn't think was possible. And now, to some degree, it's a little bit scary in terms of its capability and us, with any new technology, just understanding its use. And there will always be bad actors, which is a disadvantage of technology in my mind, is that whenever you introduce technology, there are people who will find bad ways to use it, which doesn't mean the technology's bad. It just means the actors who are using it found ways to use it in a way that probably was not the intent. And so we have to safeguard against those things. But technology, in my mind, for the most part, it's good. There's advantages to it. It helps us with communication, with travel, with every part of our lives. And it's always been. I'm going to go way back, but the technology of a pencil, of a pen, right? Those are technologies, right? That's advancement of humanity that are all the advantages that we see. The advantages around productivity, things that we can do that make us more efficient, faster with the aid of technology. As a leader, I lean on those things, right? We lean on those things as an organization, as a company, to help with our mission, with our customers, to get them services that they need in the most reliable and efficient way possible. That is through technology that allows us to keep evolving and advancing how we serve those customers. The disadvantages is over-reliance on the technology. I think about this from an education standpoint and what teachers are starting, educators, I should say, are starting to grapple with around AI. And that is, right now, the fear is that, kids aren't writing their own papers and, their resumes and applications and all that. AI is spitting all that out for them. And what the educators believe is that the disadvantage is going to be people stop thinking for themselves, right? Which is not true, but that is the early fear.
Yes.
And that's the fear that comes with any introduction of new technology.
Yes.
With the pencil, with the calculator.
Yes.
It was all fear that,
Yes.
oh my God, as a math teacher, these kids going to not know, 2 plus 2 because they're going to just go to the calculator. Well, now the calculator has been part of its history and we still use it today, and I'm still not good at math. That's a whole other point. But when you are I think the where educators are really trying to grapple, and it's, as one example, is the overuse of it. And I grapple with that use of AI for myself. So if I'm writing one of my many books to come, I thought when I just went to AI and said, help me write this book, that I was cheating. And I had to rethink about that, because I wasn't just asking AI to write me a book. I was still using my own brain to feed AI information, and then it helped me to formulate ideas, which is different.
Yes.
Right? So this overuse could be a disadvantage if I stop using my own brain, which, again, that's the early fear of this. You won't stop using your brain with technology. You just have to use it as an aid to what you're trying to get accomplished.
You'll use your brain for different things. I was having this exact conversation with someone else recently, and I said, when I was younger, I could rattle off every phone number that I would ever need.
Yes, right.
I was like, now I know my phone number,
Right.
and that's about it.
Yes.
Because that information that you would have stored in your brain, you no longer need to store because you have access to it. You can look it up.
Right.
And with AI, another sidecar. Sorry.
Episode of Sidecar.
Yes. AI, artificial intelligence, does not equal Gen AI. AI is much broader. It covers neural networks. It covers machine learning. It covers genetic algorithms. It covers a whole set of artificial intelligence topics, of which Gen AI, aka ChatGPT and the like, are just a small piece of it.
Yes, which most people are familiar with Gen AI.
Yes. And so, sorry, that tech geek had to get that out. Yeah. And it's okay that we're, in this topic, mostly equating the two, but understand that they're different.
Yeah.
And so for Gen AI, given that it's the commercialization of AI, it's taking it out of science and even out of technologists and putting it into consumers' hands on a broad level for the first time. And that is what's causing this reaction, which happens every time new technology is invoked. And so my perspective is it will cause us to use our brains differently, not less, but differently.
Right.
You have to figure out what that different is, because different is good. Arby's commercial, right? But different is also scary.
Yes.
And so it's to say, when you encounter this new thing, whether it be the automobile and you're used to horses and carriages, whether it's a calculator and you're used to a slide rule, or whether it is Gen AI and you're used to typing in Microsoft Word. As those tools shift and change, you're going to have to accept it. Thing that's slightly different that we're going to have to contend with, it's becoming self-referential. So you'd never had to worry about a car accidentally building another car, or calculator accidentally building another calculator. We're getting to the point where the technology is self-referential and it can build on itself. That's what's different.
Yeah.
That coupled with the magnification of the existing biases that are inherent in the data. And my concern, and now we're getting into a more general AI conversation, less about leadership, which we'll need to bring that back.
Yes.
My concern is more that folks aren't acknowledging the biases and that they feel that they can somehow compensate for them. Well, here are the controls that we've put in place to address the bias. I'm like, no, you cannot control for, nor mitigate or mediate the biases that come along with simply being a human being.
Right.
And it is the false sense of our ability to, not to say that we shouldn't try, but it's the false sense that we could ever be successful at it that has me concerned. Now, bringing this back to a leadership perspective, because you raised the concept, you use school as an example, and it applies also in the workplace. Like, how do you deal with the output of using Gen AI? Because we've already dealt with how do you use the output of neural networks. We've already done the work to say, how do you use machine learning? We've done that work because it has very niche cases where we are accepting of what we need to do. Like say, oh, if you want to do preventative maintenance, right? The best way to do a preventative maintenance is to use a little bit of machine learning to do the prediction. No one's up in arms about that.
Right.
But people are up in arms about this report. Granted, and what we'll need to put in place are the controls to say, okay, so for example, when you get ready to take a test, there are times when you can use the calculator, there are times when you can't. And when you get ready to do a report, there are times when you can use AI and there are times we can't. We simply haven't built the rules around how to engage with this technology so that we can get comfortable. And I think that is the piece where we need to do the work. And I was chuckling about the consulting company, I won't name the consulting company, that turned in a governmental report to the government of Australia, I think, that was generated by AI to the tune of $400,000 or so, and it was the AI hallucinating.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
Oh, you should look that up. And then there's the other case where there was an attorney that submitted a legal brief that was generated through AI that made up cases, precedent cases that he brief cited and obviously caught.
Yes.
The rules around how you use it are required, and that will evolve, and it will come with time. I think the other piece of this, and this was one of the last pieces of that conversation that we were having, being able to distinguish between, so as the self-reference and as the biases and as it improves upon itself, our ability to discern what is artificial and what is general intelligence is getting blurry.
Yeah.
And that is going to challenge what it really means to be human. Now, that is a great philosophical conversation, less about leadership, but a great philosophical conversation to have.
Mm-hmm. And you might have said it earlier on, but you keep bringing me back to the human side of this, right? No technology was ever, including AI, in its broadest sense, meant to replace or can replace the human connection.
Yes.
Right? So there's a conversation in my industry, in the coaching industry right now, that says, will AI replace coaching? Because AI you can feed a challenge problem into AI and it can spit you out very quickly.
Yes.
A full-blown resolution with details on how you might attack that challenge. much faster than I could as a human. And the question is that a threat to me as a coach? And my response is 100% not. For two reasons. One, no matter what AI spits out around that specific challenge, the person on the other end that's receiving that information from AI still needs me as a human connection. Two, no matter what AI spits out, that person still needs to understand it and then be able to apply it, which still requires a human coach to say, what am I really understanding that AI just told me? It's all great, but I'm not sure I fully comprehend what it's telling me to do or guiding me towards. And when I go to apply it, I need somebody there to help me through the nuances of that application of even what AI just told me. So it's not a threat to me no more than the calculator was a threat to a math teacher. It's a tool for me. As a matter of fact, I have started to use it in my coaching. As I am in a coaching conversation, I will quickly turn to AI and get some insight to further the conversation along. I will refer my coaching client to use AI in our absence, in our time that we are not, to further the last conversation we just had. And then we'll come back and discuss, what'd you get from AI? What did you think that was telling you? How would you use that? And so there's still a human connection to all technology. Just no more than you need a pilot to fly a plane. No more than you need me to drive a car. Although there's autonomous cars coming, right? The human connection should not be threatened by technology. We should welcome it as a tool that continues to evolve and advance us.
I agree with what you said, and I'll tweak it just a little bit, because I agree it's not a threat to human connection. Social media is. But, sorry, that slipped out. But there are threats. And so while the sewing machine was not a threat to the fashion designer, it was absolutely a threat to people who made clothes, who took what the fashion designer had done and brought it to life. And same thing with word processors, with Word, Microsoft Word. It wasn't a threat to the people with the context that needed to be captured. It was a threat to the people who did the capturing. There are tons of people who spent their life doing calculations by hand, whose jobs were eliminated by the calculator. And so while the threat to humanness, I think, is being overplayed, I think the threat to livelihoods that people are doing is real. But that's with every technology. It's that because when you go from needing the manual labor to do something to something that's automated, you need less manual labor doing that thing.
Yes.
The question is, can you then shift that to higher context work?
Yes. Okay.
Where the context is what's needed, because what we still do better than any machine is hold context. That is still the problem that Gen AI is trying to solve. They're getting better at it, but the ability to hold context is a very, very, very hard problem to solve, and that's part of general intelligence, which is not generative artificial intelligence, because that's generative is what that G stands for. General intelligence is a different branch. That's why I would tweak it just a little bit. While I completely agree that there isn't a threat to our humanness, I think there are real threats that people do need to understand, because it can impact their livelihood. And so I understand as a leader that when you start trying to introduce AI and getting your team to use AI, they can see that as, oh, you are trying to get us to be more efficient so you can reduce our numbers. And that is a valid way to look at it.
And I appreciate that. And I love the, what technology can't, from a human perspective at this point, do with the contextualization that humans can bring. What I would say to our audience is if you are feeling threatened in your work from technology, that's a bigger problem than technology. And the reason I say that is because that really is an evolution problem, not a technology problem.
Yes, 100%.
Because the world continues to evolve, technology or not, you pick. The problem is you are standing still. and you are comfortable. You have now become comfortable in that skill set, in that job, and whatever it is, that you now feel threatened, that something is going to take that over, as opposed to, and it's a growth mindset, right? That says, in my case, as a coach, I could feel threatened by technology because it's going to absolutely be able to give coaching advice faster, better, deeper than I could. I could see that as a threat because my mental mindset says, this is what I do. I shifted my mindset immediately to say, as this evolves, as technology comes in, I will evolve. The seamstress that was doing needle and thread by hand and the sewing machine came in, they could have felt threatened and be like, well, this is all I do is needle and thread by hand. But instead, they learned how to use the sewing machine.
Some of them.
Some of them, yes.
Yes.
Right? The ones that got stuck was out of a job or they had to find something to do, right? So if you are feeling like you are threatened by technology, I would just ask a growth mindset question, which is, are you stuck in what you do solely as this is what I do? Or are you open to evolving with the technology and learning how to use it as a tool to better your craft or better what it is that you do? And so threat is relative to your mindset.
I would agree. And I think leaders play a role in helping people make that journey.
Yes.
I absolutely believe at the end of the day, you own your mindset.
Yes.
And at the same time, the party that is responsible for facilitating that is the leader.
Yes.
If you are noticing that in your team, where people are having that scarcity mindset and they're saying, this is threatening to me, you cannot leave that unaddressed. Yes. You 100% have to address it. And I would recommend that you address it head on.
Yes, 100%.
And be upfront and truthful about it. And I know that's really hard.
Especially when you talk about people's livelihoods.
Exactly. Because if the focus on Gen AI is an efficiency for a certain level of quality, that is the game. But that's always been the game.
Right.
That's not a new game.
That's right. That's right.
But it's when you don't say that out loud to say, yes, we are trying to make you more efficient at your job.
Yes.
But we've always been trying to make you more efficient at your job. Yes. This is another tool in the toolbox. Here are the other tools that you've already been given and have already been provided. This is an additional tool. Now, will this cost you your job? If the answer to that is yes, then you need to say that.
Yes, right.
If the answer is maybe, you should say that. If the answer to that is no, what this is going to do is going to allow us to not hire more people, then you should say that.
Yes.
Now, I have been in cultures where that is so taboo, but I've also been in cultures where that is actually the norm. And the folks that set that are the leaders.
Yes.
I know we're over time,
yes,
but I absolutely wanted to make sure, because I took some sidecars, that we are really clear about that.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad we are kind of closing on the leader's role in that and being explicit on the role technology is playing for the organization, for its customers, for the employees in that organization. The leader has a role in identifying and helping employees with the advantages and disadvantages of the technologies that they are implementing or using. And so we've identified that technology is bigger than AI. It is the simple things that we use in life, although AI is a hot topic for us. And we also discuss that AI is broader than Gen AI. Yes. Which is what most consumers now are most familiar with, like ChatGPT and Claude and other tools, Copilot and that sort of thing. But those are real things. But at the end of the day, technology helps us as humans evolve and advance, and we should see those things as tools that aid us. If you are in a place where you are threatened by technology, then there's a real growth mindset question or questions that you need to be asking. The leaders need to be supporting their
Yes.
employees and asking and answering those questions. And that is the only way that we can really see the advantages and less of the disadvantages of technology. This is a conversation that we will circle back around to, as we only touched on the surface. We could probably do many episodes on different facets of technology. So we'll come back to this, but we touched the iceberg today, and hope you enjoyed it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Leadership Unfiltered. We hope you have found value in our conversation and are ready to take action in your leadership journey. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. And don't forget to connect with us on social media for more leadership insights and resources. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.